Hey, do you want to build a stronger family, create a better life? Well, that's what Divorce with Heart is all about. It's a show where I guide you along your divorce and co-parenting journey using the heart's wisdom, intuition, and legal expertise. So sit back, take a deep breath, relax. My name is Gina DiPrima. Let's get started. Hey, everybody. How's it going? October 29th here, and it's episode 27 today. And we are going to be talking all about what it is to co-parent when you've got busy kids. You know, kids that are involved in all of their sports activities, their recreational activities, their school stuff, everything that's going on. And we kind of touched on this topic a few episodes back, but we never were really able to dive into it from the coach's perspective. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. And it is my last live episode that I'm going to be doing for a while. So if you ever thought about calling in, you had a question, something going on through your divorce or your separation or a co-parenting challenge, whatever it is, or maybe you just want to call to say hi, give me a call. I'd love to connect with you. The number here is, I might get it wrong. Let's see, 1-760-456-7277. So give me a call. We'll be here for the next hour, and I am ready to talk with you live. And as always, I just want to express to you again my appreciation for being here and listening to the show, and everybody who's taken the time already to leave a rating and a review in iTunes. It just means so much to me, and it really helps to spread the word. And, you know, I think that if each one of us does that and just starts to really talk about divorce and co-parenting in a different way, that's how we're going to have the biggest impact in our lives and, you know, in the world at large. You know, that's where we're going to be able to change this paradigm of divorce. So if you have a few free minutes and you enjoy what you hear on this show, then please let me know. Reach out to me, leave me a rating and a review in iTunes, because the more ratings and reviews that we get, then it makes it so the show shows up easier and then more people can find it. So it really would mean a lot for you to do that. And if you want more information on upcoming episodes or things that are just going on with me and divorce intelligence or even some legal updates, then you're going to want to get on my mailing list. And that's really easy to do too. You just go to inflowradio.com, navigate to the show page, and there's a link there where you can join my email list, and you'll get yourself a free guide too for healing through divorce. So check that out as well. Okay, so let's get into this. The whole topic here of what your coaches want you to know, what you should know, ways of behaving, thinking, kind of the whole mindset around what it is to co-parent and the challenges that go along with that when you have busy, active kids. Because I know that, you know, we all think that we're like the greatest, you know, world's greatest mom, world's greatest dad. And, you know, maybe we've even gotten a present like that before, you know, the mugs or the t-shirts, that kind of thing. But really, I know that we all want to be the world's greatest, but the reality is that we're human, right? And as humans, we make a lot of mistakes. We do things we wish we didn't do. We say things we wish we hadn't had said. And a lot of times things like this creep in when it comes to parenting our kids and co-parenting our kids around their activities and their busy schedules. So, you know, something interesting that even just happened in my experience, and this isn't really a co-parenting issue, but I guess it's just more of a general parenting issue around our kids and their activities. If you've been listening to me for a little while now, you know that I have 2 kids. They're pretty active. My son plays hockey and travel baseball. My daughter's doing travel softball now and used to swim. So I'm very, very familiar with the scheduling difficulties and, you know, I guess the added stress and the joys that come with having very active kids. And I'm also very familiar with how sometimes, that stress of it all, maybe, or that competitive nature or the pressure or us wanting our kids to just be the best, how sometimes that can also cause us to act in ways, again, that we perhaps would wish that we didn't act like, or say things that we wish we didn't say. And so, funny story or whatever you want happened this weekend at the hockey rink. And this wouldn't be the first time. And I'm noticing it a lot more this year than years past, probably because my son's playing at the level now where they're not allowed to check yet, but, they're really into that zone, like they're really getting more scrappy. They want to push each other up against the boards. They're getting more angry, like kind of gone is the day where they're these sweet little innocent boys and they're emerging into these, older boys. I'll just leave it at that, right? It's the puberty thing. So, but they're not allowed to check yet. So I think that limits them. And then, of course, you get a scrappier game. Well, what happened this weekend? Of course, kids are being kids. They're trying to, feel each other out. They're trying to perform their best. They're trying to protect the other kids on the team, protect their goalies, that kinds of things. And what I'm noticing is, of course, there's a lot of rough hits, a lot of called penalties, a lot of missed penalties. And you see the whole energy of the rink changing, starting with the parents in the stands. You've got, the parents and one set of bleachers yelling and screaming at the parents on the other set of bleachers. And I've seen this at the baseball games too, although most of the time at the baseball games, it seems like the yelling is more directed toward the umpires, the guys in blue. So, but you see that, and the whole energy of the place just rises, and you can just tell that people's blood is starting to boil. And it's like we're forgetting that we're just at a hockey game for our kids, right? It's supposed to be this fun, easy, enjoyable experience, but yet we're like letting it take the best of us. And something else that I've noticed, and this is what happened a few times so far in this season and this past weekend also, is that not only are the parents now engaging with each other, what I've seen, and I wonder if any of you out there have seen this as well. And if you have, call me, let's talk about it, because I want to know what your opinion is. But what I've seen is that parents are now also taking it upon themselves to, yell and scream or discipline the kids that they think are doing something wrong. And I don't mean their own kids. I mean their other kids, right? And I don't mean the kids on their team either. I mean the kids on the other team. So imagine this, you're on whatever team blue and you're yelling and screaming at some little kid on team red because you don't like what he did, right? And this is what I keep seeing creeping up. And I know this isn't a co-parenting issue, but I think it's a parenting issue. And it comes into play when we're so passionate about our kids and their activities and their sports and how to handle it. And I just want to say, nothing good can come of that, right? I mean, I don't want to know what your opinion is. In my opinion, nothing good can come of that. I think as parents, we have an obligation and a responsibility, of course, to parent our own kids, right? Talk to our own kids, teach them responsibility, teach them how to handle differences, teach them how to be competitive, but teach them also how to respect the game, how to have good morals, how to have good character. I don't think it's our job to parent every kid out there. And I certainly think that it's overstepping, to say the least, to go so far as to then try and parent the kid on the opposite team, especially when you know that, the energy in people's blood is already boiling and it's already a contentious game. I mean, what is it that you think that you're going to get out of that? I would suggest nothing good. Nothing good. That's exactly what happened this weekend. In fact, one parent took it even further to not only try to discipline young boys on the team, but actually whipped out his cell phone to try to then film these boys as they're getting into their locker room. And of course, the boys are being boys. They're yelling, they're screaming, they're probably whipping out some profanities. But, hey, who is this guy and who is he to film them, right? So I just think we all as parents need to just take a step back sometimes whether we're co-parenting or just parenting, right? Take a step back, look at where we are, take notice and just calm down and remember that, life is good. This is good. We're at a hockey rink because it's supposed to be good. We're supposed to be there to support our kids. And, maybe there was a cheap shot. Maybe there was a missed penalty. Maybe there was a bad goal. Whatever it is, nothing should drive a parent to the level, in my opinion, of going so far as then trying to discipline and yell and scream at kids, and not even their own kids on the other team. And I think like I said, when you do that, you do nothing but stir up more drama. And then you've got parents. This is what happened in our game. You've got parents then, while everybody's sitting around waiting for their kids to get undressed and come out in the waiting room, they're challenging each other to fights, literally challenging, come on, let's step outside. I'll take, that kind of a thing. Well, and then you've got little ones sitting, looking around, scared and nervous, not knowing if daddy's going to get in a fight or mommy's going to get herself in trouble. So I just think in general, we would all do ourselves a favor to take some deep breaths, settle down, know that it's a game, know that if we're there, the reason why we're there, the number one reason, the top priority should be always to support our kids. And I don't think it's ever in our place as a parent to then go so far as to discipline children directly on an opposing team. I think if you've got an issue, go to the coach, right? Talk it over with parents, but always, 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 always remember who is watching you and who is listening to you and the example that you're modeling. And of course, this comes up when you're co-parenting, because when you're co-parenting, now you're throwing into the mix this whole idea that you're in the stands, you're watching your kid and you're trying to support your kid, but you also now have your ex or maybe your soon-to-be ex and, his or her significant other. Maybe they have kids. Maybe your other children are there. So you've got all these other layers that are now creeping into what's happening while you're really just supposed to be there with the focus on your child. Maybe you've got grandparents there, former in-laws there, the whole bit. And that's really what I want to dive into today. Just some best practices and just little reminders about what this is really all about. And, and I'm sorry, maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you think it's okay to go ahead and discipline children and I don't even, I don't think I'm giving it enough credit. What I'm referring to wasn't really discipline. This was nothing done in a respectful manner either. This is literally yelling and screaming at, tweens and swearing at tweens for their behavior on the ice. And it is happening more and more. I can't even believe for a second that it's only happening in my little neck of the woods. It's got to be everywhere. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And how we can better just manage, I think, the stress and pressure of it all. And especially when you're co-parenting, because again, that kind of makes things escalate to a whole new level. So I think when you're co-parenting, one of the first extra challenges that you have is getting the information in the first place, right? And it's really important that you don't put your child in the middle of this. And in some instances, you might be able to get your coach to send out, duplicate copies of things and, take that extra step to make sure that you are involved and notified of everything that's going on. But I would suggest that you don't expect it. Usually, no matter what the custodial parenting relationship is, usually both parents have a right to talk to their children's providers, like, doctors, dentists, teachers, coaches, that kind of thing. The other people that are involved in your children's lives. Usually both parents maintain that right. Whether it's to talk to them or gain records and information, usually both have that right. And if you're in the middle of the process of separating, you're going to want to make sure that you have that right when you come out of it. because there's no reason why you shouldn't have your own independent right to communicate and get information from every other person and institution that's involved with your child. So exercise that right, okay? Don't expect to get the information from the other parent. Don't get angry when the other parent doesn't tell you the information. And don't automatically assume that maybe their failure to tell you was something that was malicious. People are busy on both sides of the fence, right? And especially if you're going through heartbreak, and especially if you're trying to co-parent, you might find yourself all of a sudden taking on responsibilities that you didn't have to do on your own before. So everything changes. I think we need to give each other a little more slack in that department and exercise our own rights, right? So go to the coach. Tell the coach, for example, look, this is my cell phone number. If you notify people by text or cell or email, this is my email. Please include me on the string. You don't have to get into the details of the history of your relationship. Oh, she's such a blah, blah, blah. Oh, I didn't even agree with signing him up for this, but looks like I'm here. Looks like I got to do it now. Just save all that because you're not helping your child and you're making yourself look bad anyways. So, just keep it businesslike. Let the person in charge, let the organization or the coach know how to contact you. Respectfully ask to be included in any emails, in any text messages, any communication like that, any updates, that kind of a thing. And a lot of times, these organizations these days, they have other kinds of online portals, just like the schools do, or they have special apps that a lot of teams are using. So make sure you get your own login information. And if you don't have something like that, something that's really easy to use is just the Google Calendar. Set up a shared Google Calendar with your co-parent that is specifically for the purpose of organizing and tracking, right, your kids' schedule and their sporting activities or their after-school activities or their musical performances or their dance performances. There's a lot of interests, I know, so there's a lot of possibilities. But in order to just help you manage it all, it's nice to have one place to go to, and it's nice to be able to eliminate another opportunity for argument with your co-parent, right? So keep it somewhere where it's objective, like a Google Calendar, or Our Family Wizard is another app that's got some calendaring and communication tools on there. But that's the point. The point is don't be so quick to blame the other parent. Don't expect the other parent to have to give you all the information. Exercise your own independent rights. Make sure you have that independent right and, go to the source, okay? If it's a situation where you're just getting flyers sent home or something like that, well, come on. It's not that complicated either. Take a picture, snap a picture. Most people these days have a smartphone or some kind of phone that has a camera on it anyways. Snap a picture, text it over to the other parent. Just make sure that you're doing what you can to share what you can when and if you're able to, right? Because again, this isn't about you and it's not about them. It's not about necessarily competing for your child's affection and really getting that Mother of the Year, Father of the Year award because you're trying to prove that you're a better parent. That's not the point. You can both be the best parent. It's about doing what's best for your kid. And from your child's perspective, they just want love and they just want support and they just want you there. Because when you're there, it shows that you care. And it shows that you're interested in them and that you are supporting them. And it also shows that, how do I say this? That they're not all alone, that they're not so different, right? Because let's face it, your kids are going to be looking up at the stands too. They see that their teammates' parents are there and grandparents are there, or they could see who's out in the audience at their recital or who's on the sidelines while they're on the field. They know they don't want to be the only kid who, doesn't have family there supporting them. It means a lot. We're human beings. And as much as I think we're told in the self-development, self-improvement kind of world. Don't compare yourself to others. Be happy with who you are, that kind of a thing. We're humans, and it's human nature that we look around and we make those comparisons. And it starts at a young age. So your kids are doing that. There's no doubt in my mind. So that's why you want to keep it in mind. Be there for them. Make it easy on them. All right. And don't rely on them to give you the information either. I should have said that at the top too, because that's just an obvious mistake, I think, right? So now once you get the information and you're going to attend these events, and again, this goes to whether you're co-parenting or just parenting, you're going to attend these events. Let's exercise some common sense, right? Remind yourself why you're there. Remind yourself that you're there to support your child. Remind yourself that no matter what happens, you don't need to get angry and upset. You don't need to yell and scream at the other parents. You don't need to yell and scream at the other kids. None of that needs to happen, right? And most importantly, because now I want to really focus on the co-parenting issue, and this comes up so often, where I hear, well, it's my time. It's my time, and this baseball game conflicts with my time. Or her dance, recital in the practices, they're 5 nights a week, and it's my time, and I don't want to go, and all of this stuff. And I hate to sound rude when I say it, but it's what's coming to my mind. When I hear it, I hear selfishness and I hear whining. I'm going to say it. And I know that, that might strike you wrong, but it's not your time. It's not your time. In my view, it's your kids' time. And from the moment that you had children, that's when this whole idea of having to make sacrifices began. And it doesn't change just because they get older. Parenting is about sacrifice. And so even though you may have this parenting schedule with your ex or your soon-to-be ex that says, for example, maybe you have Monday and Tuesday and they have Wednesday and Thursday and you alternate the weekends, but you've got dance 5 nights a week. So obviously it's going to fall on your quote unquote time. Okay. It doesn't matter. And it shouldn't be something that is a point of contention so much. And so often that's what I see. I see it as a point of contention. I see it where, well, I'm not going to go because it's on his time. How's that? That's another one that I see. It's on his time. Again, his time, my time, her time. It doesn't matter. It's your child's time. If you look at things from your child's perspective and from your child's day-to-day view of their life, they already have an inconvenience really that you don't have, in the sense that already they spend some nights in one house and some nights in another house. They've already got to keep track of all of that, right? They've already got to keep track of where they are on what days and what stuff to bring with them. Imagine if that were you. Imagine if every couple days you had to quote unquote kind of like move into another residence. Bring all your makeup with you, bring all your toiletries with you, bring all your stuff with you. And I'm not saying that the kids all do that, but I just want you to get a sense of what that's like, always being somewhere new. That's not an inconvenience that you as a parent likely have. You still get to have your own place that you get to stay at. So already we're doing that to our kids, right? So them going to school, them being involved with things like dance, hockey, baseball, whatever it is, that gives them, and it should give them, a sense of stability, safety, security, all of that stuff. But when you start talking about it and arguing about it and arguing over who's going to take, Johnny to his game, or who has the right to go to his game because it's quote unquote my time, his time, her time, that's not fair. It all of a sudden disrupts that flow. Your child is engaged in an activity. Presumably there was some agreement to engage your child in that activity. Whether you happily agreed, voluntarily agreed, or reluctantly agreed, there's probably some level of agreement. If there wasn't a level of agreement, then, that's a different conversation. But for the sake of what I'm talking about today, let's just assume there was. So there was some level of an agreement. Now your child is involved. So forget about the idea of your time or his time. This is your child's activity and your child's schedule. And the priority should just be that when it is, quote unquote, your time, according to the parenting schedule, it should be your responsibility then to make sure that you get your child to that activity, even if you don't love that activity, right? And then when it's the other parent's time, I would suggest, and I think you should build this into your agreements, I'm often strongly advocate for it, that that the other parent have that obligation then to take the child to the activities, to their regularly scheduled activities during their parenting time, okay? And the other thing you want to make sure you build into your agreements is that, again, you both have the right to be there. You both have the right to be there and watching and observing and participating as any other fan, right, would, or any other parent or family member would, regardless of whose day it is, okay? So keep that in mind. Build those kind of language and those kind of agreements into your overall parenting agreement. And when you're there, don't do things. I've seen this happen so many times. Don't do things like, okay, it's a Saturday morning and you're at a baseball game and quote unquote, it's your time. And all of a sudden dad is there too. And so you're on the sidelines and you're watching your son and you've got your little one with you, maybe, right? Siblings. And your little one wants to go over and say hi to dad or sit with dad or hang out with dad or go to the snack stand with dad or go say hi to grandma. And it's not your mother, it's his mother, right? Don't be the parent that doesn't allow your child to see the other parent when you're at these activities. Don't be the parent that doesn't allow your child to go and, give a hug, say hello, sit next to them. Let it be normal for these kids. It's not fair to them, especially those little siblings who are just sitting there. And I've seen their little faces change. It's like you can feel, well, I can feel, because that's that empathic side of me. I can feel their heartbreak. I can feel what they're going through and the stress and the frustration that is on them every time that I see, sorry, moms, but it's usually the moms that I see pulling the little one away from the other parent, pulling them away in this kind of angry, tense move of this, I don't know, it's like an expression of authority. Like, no, this is my time. You stay here with me. I've seen it. And it's just so hurtful and it's so nasty. So don't do that. Please don't do that. No matter what you might think of the other parent, and you might be 100% justified to have all of those thoughts and beliefs and feelings toward that other parent. Don't get me wrong, but try to separate that. Separate your experience from your child's experience, okay? Let your child go over there, see them. Let your child, if they're out on the field or out on the rink, it's okay that they're seeing the other parent and it's not that parent's day, right? Let them take moments at the end of the game to go and say thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming to grandma or to dad or whatever, because that's the kind of kid you want to raise, isn't it? You want them to have good character. You want them to have gratitude. You want them to have all those things. So let it happen and give up this holding on to the schedule idea of my time, his time. Okay. And sorry, another thing that I see is sometimes it happens subtly. That example I just gave you where you see somebody just pulling the kid over. No, you can't go over there. Right. I've seen it in subtle ways too, okay? I've seen it where parents are sitting in the stands together, but you've got one parent at one end of the bleachers, the other at the other end, and you hear the little whispering or you see the little looks and the gestures, and you can just feel the energy and the tension just kind of like seething out of them, right? I mean, if I can feel it and I don't even know you, right? Trust me, there are other parents there that can feel the same thing. They know why you're sitting at opposite ends of the field. They know what's going on. And I think really that's kind of the problem, because we don't need to air our emotions like that. We don't need to wear it all out there like that, because if other people are picking up on it, your kid is likely being affected too. And then that's when you run into these things of your child saying that they don't want dad coming to their games anymore. They don't want mom coming to their games anymore. Well, and if they'd say that, don't feel like that's like a sense of victory. Don't feel like, oh, see, I told you, you're such a jerk. Now he doesn't even want you there. No. The reality is you may be just as responsible for creating that situation because of the gestures, because of the subtle energy that you're bringing when you're at the field, when you're at the rink, when you're at the pool, wherever you're at. Okay. And it's uncomfortable, and kids don't want to feel that way. They just want to have fun. They just want to play. They just want to run up and down that field with that soccer ball and get a goal, right? That's all they want to do. They want to be able to look to the sidelines and see a smile on mom's face and see a smile on dad's face. They don't want to look out there and be worried or nervous or scared, and feel that kind of tension. And they feel it. They feel it. Kids are so in tune to what's going on. I think kids are sometimes more in tune to how we as adults feel than sometimes we are aware of. They sometimes have more awareness of how we feel than our own self-awareness, if that makes sense. Because we've got so much going on, especially when you're, in the throes of a breakup and some co-parenting challenges. So keep in mind the energy you're bringing to the field. It can be very disruptive, not just when you act overtly in ways that I kind of just discussed and outlined, but also in these other kind of subtle things. All right. And don't get into this idea either of bad mouthing the other parent to the coach. I have heard this so many times in my work as an attorney for kids over the years. Oftentimes I do reach out to coaches. I call them up. I ask them, what's going on? What happens at the game? How are they acting? Because I'm being told all sorts of various allegations, and I think it says a lot about people. So I know that I do it, and I know that there's a lot of other attorneys out there for kids that will reach out and do the exact same thing. They'll investigate. They'll call the coaches. And I'll tell you what I hear a lot is about how, they'll get a mouthful. They'll get a mouthful, for example, if there was a practice and, the schedule got screwed up and the other parent maybe was late or something. So they call home to come pick up the child, and, they'll get a mouthful about how bad that parent is and, what's going on and all of this. And it's not necessary. If you receive that kind of a phone call, just say, okay, you know what? I'll be right there, and just pick your child up. And that's it. And I also know, from the perspective of being a wife to a coach for many, many years, because my husband's been involved in coaching our kids, that, yeah, parents always, not always, but a lot of parents sometimes when they're in a contentious, adversarial divorce and co-parenting situation, they will try to portray the other parent negatively as being less caring, not involved, unreliable, that kind of a thing. And then they bring that drama to the fields. And I'm going to tell you that not only does this hurt your child in ways that, I've already just outlined, but it also hurts your child in terms of your child's opportunities. Because when I've talked to these coaches, many, many coaches over the years, and it comes down to tryouts and who's making the team and who's not, let me tell you what, it's not just based on your child's skill or lack of skill or your child's character, okay? It's based on you also. It's based on you, your family. Are you creating a lot of drama? Are you someone that the coach just doesn't even want to deal with anymore? Unfortunately, I can think of a handful of kids that I've represented over the years who all of them, great athletes. But every year they were on a different team. and not because of the kid. You know, that little kiddo was going out there doing the best he or she could, right? Being a great team player, doing all things that you would expect, but because of the parents, because the parents were just bringing too much drama, that the coaches they didn't want it anymore, right? So keep that in mind and the other ways that you really could be hurting your children if that's what's happening, okay? So let's see. I'm just looking at my notes. I have here the death look. Yes, that's one of the subtle ways. I don't think I mentioned that, but maybe I just talked around it. But there is the death look, that stare that you see. And I'm sure that if you're listening and you're thinking to yourself, oh, good, I don't do that. Maybe you have a story and maybe you've seen it at your own, when you take your kids to activities. But again, that kind of thing, it makes everybody feel uncomfortable, together with if all of a sudden the parent is talking about their ex or the girlfriend that's there or the fiance that's there or, her kids or any of that. The point is I guess, let's just act like adults. Let's just be courteous to each other. Let's just show up and have some good energy with us, remember why you're there. If I had to boil it down, just remember why you're there. And here's something else I think that goes to the schedule. And this comes up quite often too, especially in families where you have the other parent, the one you're co-parenting with, as the coach or the teacher of your child. Or maybe it's that parent's significant other. That's been coming up a lot more lately in what I see and hear about, that it's the significant other who might be the dance instructor, the gymnastics coach, or, the baseball coach. And especially if you've got kids that travel, how demanding that schedule can be. And like I said before, it's not your time, it's not his time, it's your kid's time. And if your kid is traveling, all of a sudden that could mean that there's a lot of out-of-town trips being had with the other parent and with the other parent's significant other, even though that out-of-town stuff could be on your time. So what do? Do you sit back and say, oh, well, I'm not going to go because, he's going to go anyways, and do you get angry about that? Because now all of a sudden you are, quote unquote, losing all of your time and now you want makeup time. Does that sound familiar? Because that is certainly an argument that I've heard many, many, many times. And again, my first response is, come on. It's not your time. It's not his time. Yes, he may be a coach, but if he's acting as a coach, sure, he might also be acting as a dad, but he's probably a coach first. And that means that his time is divided between your child and all the other kids on the team and managing that, right? And if it's the significant other that's teaching, it's the same thing. And again, it goes back to, this is your child's interest. This is what makes them happy. So my first response when I hear something like that is go to the events. I don't care if it's in, the next state and if you've got to travel out of town once a month and it's quote unquote the other parent's time. It doesn't matter. Go to the events. Your kid wants you there anyways. Again, they want to know that you love them and that you support them. And it shouldn't be their activity that's going to come in and drive a wedge or create further conflict. Their activity should be something that they can enjoy happily and be able to look out and see the support and feel the love of both of their parents there. Okay, so let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll keep on going. Hi, it's Gina here. Did you know that every week I meet with a group of people just like you who are struggling with the pain of divorce? I help them to feel good about themselves again, make better choices, overcome their fears. I call it divorce intelligence. And you know what? It doesn't matter where you are or what stage of the process you're in. It could be before, during, or even after, because we meet online. It's super simple. All that fighting, the crazy legal fees, the constant anger, the frustration, it's not mandatory. You don't have to struggle through this alone, and you don't have to question if you're doing the right thing. There's a better way, and I know it works. Every week in my group, I draw on my legal experience and conscious uncoupling processes to help guide you through the process. And you know what else? I tap into the spiritual realm. I bring ancient healing techniques and soul-level guidance to you so you can experience deep, everlasting change. So if you're ready to heal and save yourself some time, money, and years of frustration, not just for you, but for your kids too, then give me a call and join Divorce Intelligence. It's a totally free call. All you have to do is go to doorwaytoheal.com. That's doorwaytoheal.com. I know you deserve a life of peace and happiness. So if you're ready to really divorce with heart, give me a call. Let's work together. Some of you have questions about your partnership, marriage, or co-parenting situation. I'm here for you. Give me a call in today's live episode by dialing the U.S. number 1-760-456-7277. That's 1-760-456-7277. Talk to you soon. All right. So thanks for sticking with me. We're talking about our kids' activities, their sports, and how it, mixes with the parenting schedule. And I was just, exploring what happens when the other parent or their significant other is the actual coach or the teacher, whatever, the one that's primarily involved. So you know that they're going to be there with the kid. And so then you may feel as though, you shouldn't be there, and you may absent yourself. And my response to that is don't be that jealous parent. Don't absent yourself from your child's activities. Don't get angry and upset and say, oh, and look at it like the other parent is stealing all of your quote unquote time. I talked a lot about that earlier in the hour because it's not that parent's time. It's your child's time. And don't, sit back and then demand, quote unquote, makeup time because of it. Get your butt out there. Go support your kid and love your kid and forget about all the rest. All of it is just drama. It's all these stories and things that are circulating through your head that are just going to create more and more heartache, anger, frustration, tension. You don't need any of it. All right. You love your kid. You want what's best for your kid. I know you do. Everybody does. It's the number one thing that I hear from every parent that I've ever talked to 100% of the time. So sometimes that means what it's always meant: sacrifice, sucking it up, going out there anyways with a smile on your face, bringing good energy with you and cheering your kid on, being your kid's cheerleader for real, being your kid's cheerleader. Right. And I know what some objections might be. I've heard them, well, you don't want to spend all your free time with the other parent, who is obviously your ex at this point, right? Or soon to be ex, or you don't want to spend all your free time with the other parent's family, right? You want to do other things. Well, so what? It's not about all your free time anymore. It never was. From the moment that you had a child, we make those sacrifices. And I know I'm being real bold here today, and some of you may not like it, but this is how I feel about parenting in general. That's what it is. A primary part of parenting is sacrifice. And I don't know. I guess if you don't agree with that, let me know. So go to these events, okay? The reality is your kid's going to do great things. And think about it from the other side of things. Do you want to miss it? Do you want to just hear the story later on about how, your daughter won an award for best performance? Or do you just want to hear about it, how your son scored the winning goal or, tied to the game or hit it out of the park? Do you just want to hear the story, or do you want to be there, to really get into it? Because I know that I can tell you, despite all the sacrifices that I have made in supporting my own kids, and it's a lot. I mean, these schedules can be absolutely crazy. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy. It takes money. It just takes a lot. It's a big sacrifice. But I'll tell you what else. It's some of the most rewarding experiences that I've had. Those times where I've seen my kid do something that was just, you know what I'm saying. I'm getting tongue-tied. But when I've seen my kid hit it out of the park, or I've seen him be, one of my greatest moments was seeing my little guy run across home plate when it was a tight game and it was a playoff game and it was tied, and I think there were like bases loaded, 2 outs, and he was the one to make it home and score. And I mean, it was priceless. It was a priceless moment. You don't want to miss those moments. You don't want to miss those memories because you're too caught up in the drama or your own thinking, your own crazy thinking that's keeping you there. All right. So go. And if that means having to maybe mingle with the other, new significant other, the stepmom, the stepfather, or other family members, so what? Every day you go to work, I'm sure that you have to interact with people that, maybe aren't on your top friend list, right? Doesn't matter. That's part of just being an adult, right? We know how to do this, or we should know how to do this. And if we don't, then that's where we need to learn. But I think most of us do on some level. We know how to interact and be around people that we don't particularly resonate with, right? Whether that's coworkers, boss, could have been some teachers. We've done it. That's what makes us mature and grown-ups. That's what we need to teach our kids. So go anyways and do it. You can be courteous for 5 minutes. You can be respectful. Okay. You can do all of those things. And if you are there, I think the best way to handle the schedule when it comes to sharing a hotel, I've seen a lot of parents do this, is stick to what you got. So if you're doing like an every other weekend schedule and your child's activity takes you out of town for the weekend and you're in one hotel room and your ex is in another hotel room, I would say the easiest way to do it is whosever weekend it was, that should be where the child spends, his sleeping hours in the hotel room. Now, odds are probably your kid's just going to be running around the hotel room with everybody else on his or her team, having a great old time, maybe even wanting to sleep in somebody else's room. But, if you can't work together and you can't work it out, then just make that the default. Okay. So that's the room that the child should sleep in, is whoever parenting weekend it would have otherwise been. Okay. And just remember why you're doing it. Remember again that it's about what you're modeling. Okay. And it's about supporting your child. And I get a lot of questions also when it comes to this thing about significant others and whether or not they should go or whether or not they should stay home. Now, obviously, I'm not talking about the ones who are directly involved in the activity. And I don't think that this is a black and white answer. I can't tell you yes and I can't tell you no, because I think that there's a lot of factors to be considered. And the number one thing that I would consider and try to figure out in answering that question would be, what's the temperature like when they're there? If them being there stirs things up, raises the energy, makes people anxious, nervous, tense, kind of you can feel it, then probably they should stay home. Because again, it's about the atmosphere and it's about the experience that you're creating for your child, because your child is going to grow up one day and be an adult. have a boyfriend, have a girlfriend, sitting around talking about their life and how they were raised. And they're going to be reflecting on their memories and their moments. And a lot of that's going to be whatever happened on that field or that rink or that pool or, that recital, that stage. Do you want them to have good stories or bad stories? Do you want them to have good memories or bad memories? Do you want them to have a nice, warm, fuzzy feeling? Or do you want them to, have all the recollection of how their life was screwed up, right? And then have a lot of blame, perhaps, in their hearts and shame in their hearts and regrets. I think the answer is probably obvious. So, what's the temperature like when the other one's around? And, in terms of their stuff, this is the last point I want to make on this topic. Kids have a lot of stuff, right, when it comes to their activities, depending on the activity. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. And it can be real difficult on your children to have to bear that responsibility and hear their parents arguing about their stuff. How are they going to pick up their skis? How are they going to get their ski boots? How are they going to get their hockey bag? What about their football equipment? What about their instrument that's too big to carry on and off the bus and all this other stuff? Again, if you can find a way to just make it easier on your kids and forget about yourself for a minute, that's what my advice is. Okay? I know that you don't want your ex coming to your house. I know you don't want your ex entering your house or your garage and those kinds of things. And I know all of the worries you may have if I suggest to you to leave it on the porch or leave it somewhere. But there's a way to do it. There is definitely a way to do it. And everybody's case is different depending on where you live, what your circumstances are, and the kind of safety that's around you. But if there's a way that you can make it easier on your kids by perhaps leaving the bigger equipment items on the porch, maybe you even get a storage locker. I don't know, something. Putting it in a section of the garage. I mean, even if you've got to put up a little camera because you don't trust your ex, okay? Something. Just make it easier on your kids so they can go back and forth, know that they're going to be able to get to their activities and not have this extra level of stress around the whole thing. Okay? So I hope that this makes a lot of sense. I hope that it resonates with you. And as always, if you want to talk about it, then join the Facebook group, please. Divorce with Heart, that's the group on Facebook. And I'd love to continue the conversation there on any of these ideas, and if you don't agree with me, tell me how you don't agree with me. Obviously, you can tell from the way I'm speaking about this topic that I'm pretty passionate about it. And I see a lot of litigation around kids' activities. And I think it's a shame. And I think it happens because we forget what's most important at the end of the day. We lose sight of those things. And it's easy to do when we're human. So let's stick together and remind each other of what's most important. And that's our children. And raising happy, healthy adults that know how to love, receive love, give love, know how to be trusting, know how to be in situations around people that maybe they don't necessarily like because they're learning those lessons from you every day that you're co-parenting. So let's just help each other and remind each other of that. Okay? Join the group, get on my mailing list. Like I said, you can do that easily by going to the Inflow Radio website and navigating to my show page. And let's keep the conversation going, okay? And if you're having problems, if you're going through a really contentious divorce and you're getting stressed out and you're feeling overwhelmed and, the stress and the anxiety and the financial concerns is just getting to be too much, maybe you're not sleeping, maybe you're not eating, maybe you're resorting to other, coping mechanisms, drinking, stuff like that, smoking. You're not alone. All right. So reach out to me. That's what divorce intelligence is all about. It's about getting the emotional support that you need to get you through this time in your life, because that's what it is. It's a time in your life. You will get through it. You will pass through it. It will end. But who you are on the other side depends on how you go through this. And who your children are and how they survive and how they thrive and how they feel at the end and when they look back on their life depends on how you go through this. So don't struggle alone. reach out to me. Go to doorwaytoheal.com. There's an application there. You'll be able to book a call with me and let me help you through this. All right? Because you can turn this into, I won't even say the best moment, but you can turn it into something good, right? Making lemonade with lemons. And well, I'll be on again next Monday. Have a great week. Thank you for joining me. Thank you so much for joining me today. Come back next week and be sure to visit my website at dpremalaw.com to book a call, or let's connect on Facebook at dpremalaw, where you can join my group for more support. Please remember that the information shared is for general and entertainment purposes only, and that by calling in or messaging me, we are not creating an attorney-client relationship, and my advice is not intended to be legal advice. For specific legal advice, please contact a lawyer in your jurisdiction.
This show is brought to you by inflowradio.com, the best curated talk radio network for personal development, wellness, spirituality, and conscious business.